BBC has completely destroyed its credibility.
It is not only prejudiced, it is biased, seems motivated.
I'm not sure I agree at all with the characterisation that the honourable gentleman has put forward.
We think this is a propaganda piece, colonial mindset.
It is not only prejudiced, it is biased and full of factual errors also. In this documentary, they have raised basically 3 or 4 issues. Firstly, it has talked about the Gujarat riots of 2002, which followed the train burning incident in Godhra. As we all know that in this context, the Supreme Court had set up a special investigating team. It has submitted its report to Supreme Court, which has given its verdict, and it has clearly held, very clearly it has held that Prime Minister Modi or the Gujarat government was not involved. They have completely exonerated him and said that all the charges leveled against him are not correct. So once the Supreme Court has come out with that, now BBC taking up these same issues seems motivated.
There has been great anger and I would say even disbelief at the kind of a documentary that BBC has put out in London, and they're going to have a second part, they say. And the anger and the disbelief is because they're trying to talk about Prime Minister Modi in a negative context, linking it to the incidents that took place in Gujarat in 2002. But there is no factual reporting in the BBC documentary at all. They keep talking about allegedly this and reportedly that. And above all, they have ignored completely the decisions of the Indian judiciary. BBC has completely destroyed its credibility by bringing about such a documentary. And in fact, the anger in the British Parliament has been expressed clearly. The British Prime Minister has rebutted attempts by certain members of Parliament to talk about this issue. The other British members of Parliament have completely criticised BBC. Formal letters have gone from British members of Parliament to the Director General of the BBC saying, how have you made such a documentary by ignoring all the facts?
As you know, the BBC has a troubled record in dealing with India because it appears to have a colonial mindset with regard to India. And from time to time, this surfaces. And this particular documentary of 2 parts was a visible example of the fact that although it's a public broadcasting service, it does these programs which are highly discriminatory, interference in our internal affairs, and which are funded by private partners, not the British government. When the documentary was aired, it was then deliberately put on YouTube, so that as many Indians as possible can see it on YouTube. It was then removed from YouTube 24 hours later. When I saw the documentary, I was struck by a few things. The first was that it is completely dated. It does not respect India's democratic institutions, the fact that it was discussed repeatedly in Parliament, the fact that it went to the Supreme Court, the fact that it was exonerated in the Supreme Court.
BBC has ruined its credibility by coming out with this series. Whatever little belief that people had on the credibility of BBC it has gone to the absolute zero. There is no ethics involved whatsoever. They still find fault with Modi for having perpetuated the riots in Gujarat, whereas the Honorable Supreme Court of India had constituted an SIT which did a painstaking look into it. And after the painstaking look into it, they found no reason whatsoever to blame Modi. And they said Modi is not to be blamed. Similarly, the Honorable Supreme Court has acquitted Modi of all charges.
Do note that this has not been screened in India, so I am only going to comment on the context of what I have heard about or how my colleagues have seen. Let me just make it very clear. We think this is a propaganda piece designed to push a particular discredited narrative. The bias, a lack of objectivity, and frankly a continuing colonial mindset is blatantly visible. If anything, this film or documentary is a reflection on the agency and individuals that are peddling this narrative again. It makes us wonder whether about the purpose of this exercise and the agenda behind it. And frankly, we do not wish to dignify such efforts.
Mr. Speaker, the UK government's position on this has been clear and long-standing and hasn't changed. Of course, we don't tolerate persecution where it appears anywhere, but I'm not sure I agree at all with the characterisation that the honourable gentleman has put forward.